Right now, somewhere in your kitchen, there is something sweet within reach. A bag of candy, a box of cereal, a soda in the fridge. You don't think about it. You just reach for it. But for almost the entire history of your species, that sweetness barely existed. Sugar, as you know it, is younger than the wheel, younger than writing, younger than most of the buildings in your city. So what did your ancestors actually eat? And why does your brain still crave something it spent millions of years never getting? Start with a simple fact. Your body did not evolve for the world you live in now. It evolved for a world of scarcity. A world where calories were hard to find and harder to keep. Every craving you feel today was once a survival instruction. Fat meant energy that could be stored for winter. Salt meant minerals your body couldn't make on its own. And sugar, real sugar, wild sugar, meant something even more specific. It meant ripeness. It meant safety. It meant food that wasn't going to poison you. Think about a piece of fruit hanging on a branch 2 million years ago. Unripe fruit is often bitter, sometimes toxic. Ripe fruit is sweet. That sweetness was a signal, a chemical green light telling an early hominin's brain, this is safe, this is ready. Eat now before something else does. Researchers who study human evolution, including biological anthropologist Catherine Milton, have argued that the shift toward fruit-heavy diets in early primates may have directly shaped the evolution of color vision itself. You may see the world in reds and greens, partly because your ancestors needed to spot ripe fruit against green leaves. Your eyes were built, in part, by sugar. But wild sugar was nothing like the sugar you know. It was rare. It was seasonal. It was locked inside fibrous plants, tart berries, and fruit that barely resembled the engineered produce in your grocery store today. A wild banana, for example, is small, full of hard seeds and barely sweet at all. The bananas you eat now are the result of thousands of years of human selection, bred generation after generation to be sweeter, softer, seedless. Nature never intended fruit to taste like dessert. Humans did that. So if fruit wasn't the main course, what was? For most of human history, your ancestors were not sugar seekers. They were fat seekers and protein seekers. Anthropological research on hunter-gatherer societies, including long-term fieldwork by anthropologist Kim Hill among the Ache people of Paraguay, has shown that wild foraging groups often prioritize meat and fat over plant foods whenever they can get them. Not because plants are absent, but because fat and protein deliver far more usable energy per bite. A kill meant days of food. A handful of berries meant a few minutes of it. Your ancestors were not counting calories. They were doing something older than math. They were doing survival arithmetic in their bones. And it wasn't just meat. Roots, tubers, nuts, insects, shellfish along the coastlines, marrow cracked from bones with a stone. Some researchers believe access to cooked tubers and starches, not sugar, is what allowed the human brain to grow as large as it did. Richard Wrangham, a primatologist known for his research on the role of cooking in human evolution, has proposed that the invention of cooking may be one of the single most important turning points in the story of your species. Cooking softened food. It unlocked calories that raw digestion couldn't reach. It gave early humans more energy for less chewing, and that energy, some scientists argue, may have helped fuel the growth of a bigger, hungrier brain. Here's where it gets strange. For nearly all of human history, sugar was not a food group. It was an event. A rare, seasonal, often dangerous scramble. In parts of Africa, some hunter-gatherer groups engaged in one of the boldest sugar hunts imaginable, raiding wild beehives for honey, climbing trees, enduring stings, risking falls, all for a substance so valuable it was sometimes treated almost like currency. Honey was the closest thing the ancient world had to pure concentrated sugar, and people were willing to get hurt for it. That should tell you something. If your ancestors were willing to risk pain for something sweet, sweetness itself must have mattered on a level deeper than taste. It mattered on the level of survival. Now compare that to your life. You don't climb anything for sugar. You don't get stung. You don't wait for a season. You open a wrapper. The reward center in your brain, the same ancient circuitry that once lit up for a rare piece of ripe fruit or a stolen scoop of honey, now lights up dozens of times a day for something that cost you almost nothing to obtain. This mismatch has a name in modern research. Some scientists call it evolutionary mismatch, the idea that a trait shaped by one environment can become harmful in a completely different one. Your craving for sugar wasn't a flaw. It was a finely tuned tool, built for a world of scarcity. But you're not living in that world anymore. You're living in a world engineered to trigger that tool constantly, cheaply, and endlessly. So why does a piece of cake still feel like a reward, even when you're not starving, even when calories aren't scarce at all because your brain hasn't caught up? Millions of years of evolution do not update themselves in a single century of abundance. The part of you that lights up at something sweet is still operating on ancient instructions. Instructions written for a world where sugar meant survival, not convenience. You are, in a very real sense, walking around with a Stone Age reward system inside a supermarket-shaped world. This is not a story about willpower. It's not really a story about diet either. It's a story about mismatch, about a craving that made perfect sense for 100,000 years and now finds itself misfiring in a world it was never built for. Your ancestors didn't need to resist sugar. Sugar resisted them. It hid in fruit trees, guarded by bees, wrapped in fiber, protected by seasons. The scarcity did the disciplining for them. You don't have that scarcity anymore. You have the craving, but not the friction. And that gap between an ancient hunger and a modern world built to satisfy it instantly might be one of the most human things about you. Not a weakness, a leftover. A signal from deep in your evolutionary past, still firing, still trying to keep you alive in a world that no longer needs it to. So the next time you reach for something sweet without even thinking, notice it. That reach isn't really about the candy or the soda or the dessert in front of you. It's older than that. It's 100,000 years of hunger, still whispering the same message it always has. Eat now. This is safe. This is rare. Except now, for the first time in the story of your species, it isn't rare at all. There is still something sweet within reach right now. But this time, you know exactly why you want it.